The Bioneer is a popular fitness YouTuber. I know that many of you are watching his content as well because YouTube Analytics is telling me so. He recently did a great video about the kettlebell swing, so let me give you my perspective on it. Before we get started, I have a gift for you. 30 days filled with kettlebell workouts for free. Check the first link in the description. Grüezi miteinander, Gregory von Leberstadt here. The Bioneer does some interesting fitness-related content revolving around different topics. I enjoy this type of information since it can give you a bird's eye perspective. Sometimes though, if we are too general, we might be the jack of all trades, yet masters of none. So after watching his video on the kettlebell swing, I got a couple of things that I want to share with you to give you some perspective on what he said.
Kettlebell swing is so incredibly effective at so many different things that it has a whole term named after it called the "what the hell" effect.
The phrase "what the hell" effect was used by Pavel Tsatsouline as a marketing tool. Yes, of course, there is an effect taking place, but it also might be that you are just getting your GPP up, your general physical performance. Most people are deconditioned anyway, or they lack strength, and that's the reason why they feel these superpowers once they pick up kettlebells. I, for example, experience that my double jerk is going through the roof because I've incorporated some heavy bench presses. This is not a knock on kettlebells, of course, it's just a different angle.
Today we're going to be talking about a variation akin to the hardstyle kettlebell swing that focuses on generating massive power in a manner that should translate to more powerful strikes in martial arts and greater athleticism.
Now I've stopped thinking in styles and I started thinking in intent. High tension techniques such as more bracing, more tension, more explosiveness can help you build more strength, build more muscle, and of course more explosive power. High volume techniques on the other hand can help you build strength and power endurance, build grip and mental focus and tenacity.
This allows you to build not only strength in the lower back but strength endurance. By building up strength and endurance in this area, we can make sure that we're strong and stable there all throughout the day. And we can teach the correct hip hinge movement so that you're not bending that lower spine and potentially putting it through unnecessary stress.
Now, many people are concerned with stressing the lower back, and that is rightfully so. However, honored master of sport Valery Fedorenko shared an interesting perspective about the swing to stretch the lower back. This technique serves you well if you have blown up your lower back muscles from, let's say, heavy deadlifting. It looks like this. Now, of course, you have to have a strong lower back and of course some solid endurance in that area, but it puts this statement that we shouldn't bend the lower back during the swing in a different perspective.
Comes forward, you want to keep your core nice and rigid. Again, this is an anti-flexion movement. You're trying to prevent your spine from bending forwards. You want to keep the weight quite close to your body, so when it comes upwards, have those shoulder blades retracted. So you don't want it swinging all the way over there. You want to keep it nice and tight to the body.
If you want to keep the kettlebell close to your body, your shoulders are not as important. What's even more important is the upper back, or to be more exact, the T-spine. So what you want to do to keep the kettlebell close to your body is to keep your T-spine in its natural kyphotic position. Extending the T-spine like this leads to the fact that the kettlebell travels then away from you. So since the kettlebell swing mimics a jump, we want to swing the kettlebell upward instead of forward. So if you keep the T-spine in its natural kyphotic position, even though you are locking the hips and using the force that's coming from your posterior chain, you keep the kettlebell closer to your center of mass and it swings upward. Looks like this.
Kettlebell swings are also really good for your grip because as the weight is trying to get away from you, you need to hold onto it as hard as you can, and that bar tends to slip around inside your hand. This is a great way to build up grip strength without even really trying.
I like swinging with a so-called finger grip where my extensors do the work instead of my flexors. So I grab the kettlebell like this, and if I need any additional grip, I'm using chalk. And if I want to build some solid grip strength, I'm doing a regular, basic farmer's walk without being scared that the kettlebell falls outside of my hands because I'm losing grip. When it comes to a swing technique, I generally like it. There's a couple of things that we can point out. Number one, the bell is flapping in the backswing. Number two, he's leaning back because he's extending the T-spine, exactly what we talked about a couple of minutes earlier. And the kettlebell swings maybe a little bit too high. If we want to avoid the bell flapping in the backswing, we want to lean forward a little bit more and give the kettlebell enough space to travel back. If we avoid this and we want to hinge too early up, while the kettlebell is still in this backwards trajectory, then the kettlebell starts flapping. So this is what I want to focus on. We've already covered the leaning back. You can correct this by just engaging in your natural kyphotic position. And when the kettlebell swings a little bit too high, just make sure you stop it at approximate chest level.
So in the sports style, essentially what you're doing is you're allowing momentum to carry you as much as possible, and you're trying to make it as efficient as possible, so you're expending as little energy as possible. This might mean that there's slightly more of a squat involved, or that you straighten your legs at the bottom of the movement.
If you want to do a so-called kettlebell sport, or rather high volume swing, then you want to engage in the so-called double bent knee. You're not actually doing a squat, you are bending the knees twice. So let's imagine if I do it in slow motion. I bring the kettlebell into the backswing and I extend my knees as far as I can. Then I come back by pushing the hips forward, which means this pushes the knees forward. Now I finish the swing by extending the hips and the kettlebell starts flying. Here comes the important moment. The kettlebell comes back down and I'm catching it with contracted glutes with soft knees. And then as soon as I make contact, I engage into a full extension of the knees to let the kettlebell travel as far as I can to catch the energy, and then coming back. It's also referred to as the Russian pendulum. This is what it looks like. The more advanced you get with this technique, the more subtle it becomes, especially in the snatch.
On the other hand, the hardstyle kettlebell swing is a form of kettlebell training that involves relaxing the body, yes, but then during the hip thrust, you're going to really contract as hard as you can. And this is the nuance, the important feature of hardstyle kettlebell training.
Now here's where the description of the styles becomes a little bit confusing, because you can actually do both. In high tension techniques, you have to understand when to relax, and in high volume techniques, you also have to know when to use tension. I can demonstrate this with a double clean with 2 kettlebells. We use the so-called double bent knee or Russian pendulum, but as soon as I bring the bells up, I have to use a lot of force from posterior chains, I have to use a lot of tension in my arms, and when the kettlebell is racked, I keep my glutes and my quads contracted.
Jumping kettlebell squat, where you hold the kettlebell in a goblet position, is actually the perfect complement to the kettlebell swing, because here you are creating a triple extension as you launch up into the air and then drive through the ankles as well as you plantar flex to push yourself off in that last little bit.
If you're looking for a complementary exercise for the kettlebell swing, I would recommend everything that is overhead. Yet, if you want to jump into triple extension, which is an awesome concept which works your legs in harmony and as a unit, then you'd rather opt in for a jerk because it's softer on the joints than a jump squat with a heavy kettlebell.
And of course, just one-armed kettlebell swings, which require further bracing in the core to run now, keep your body nice and straight instead of twisting round awkwardly.
Twisting with a single hand swing is not a problem if the twisting is limited to the T-spine. Now, of course, it's not something that you want to exaggerate. However, in the single hand swing, as well as in the snatch, there might be some twisting, and that's totally fine if you keep the safeguards for your lower back in place. Looks like this. Here we can check out the Bioneer's snatch technique. To me, it looks like he's mixing a clean and press with a snatch. You either want to do a clean and press or a snatch. A clean and press looks like this. And a snatch looks like this. There's also a variation that's called the half snatch. Maybe that was something that he was kind of trying to do. And that's when you get the kettlebell up in a top fixation from the snatch from the bottom. 1, 2, you don't bring it back down, but you bring it down into the rack, rest, and then back into the top fixation. And finally, I see the Bioneer using wristbands. In 99% of cases, you don't want to train with wristbands because wristbands or wrist guards circumvent the need to improve the skill. You're essentially allowing the kettlebell to drop and crash on your forearm without you feeling it. If you feel it, this gives your body the proper response that you have to do some adjustments. The one rare case where I would recommend using wristbands is if you have been working on your cleans for longer sets of time and now a couple of days later there is one specific reason why you have to do cleans or snatches again and you already feel your arm is bruised and it hurts, then wrist guards might be warranted. Here's the next thing that you have to do. Like the video, consider subscribing, share it with a friend, and then go watch this video. Maybe this is your first time here. We're all about kettlebells. And if you're discovering kettlebells for the first time, or you're checking this video out because you know the Bioneer, and you want to learn more about kettlebells, and you're just getting started, you gotta watch this video. It's perfectly suited for beginners. So go watch it right now.